waste of time, I'll just quickly call on the next speaker, and this is Chilumba Mutale, the innovation lead for Yaaka Investment Limited. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. So, like she said, my name is Chilumba Mutale, the innovations lead for Yaaka Investment Limited. So basically, I'll give a bit background about our company, which is a startup company. So Yaaka Investments dates back from 2015. That was November when it was registered. This is a company that was started by students at the Copperbelt University. So from 2015 to 2020, Yaaka has been doing research on the waste management sector in Zambia. And in 2020, that's when we developed our first innovation, which was the Yaaka incinerator bin. This is simply an incinerator that incinerates waste as well as capture the emissions. Then recently, we've been working on the first e-waste recycling plant, and that's what I'll be presenting on today. So e-waste is a growing crisis, not only in Zambia, but also across Africa. And as you can see from the image there, in 2019, it was only about 53.6 metric tons, and it is projected to be around 110 metric tons by 2050. So this is one of the most growing streams compared to plastics and other e-waste. So first of all, I want to highlight some of the challenges, and this is based on Yaaka, some of the challenges associated with e-waste in Zambia. So number one, and I'm sure this was mentioned in the morning by Mr. Andrew, improper e-waste disposal. So most of the e-waste, most especially from households, ends up in the landfills because waste management companies don't separate e-waste. They just mix up everything. There you go to the landfills. Then we also have weak policy enforcement, which is a big problem. Though in Zambia, e-waste is categorized as a hazardous waste. There is no policy to direct really the organizations on, there are no systems in short. I'm sure Mr. Andrew highlighted much on this. Then we also have corporate resistance due to lack of incentives. And I'm sure I'm going to share more on that as we go on with our presentations. We've quite approached a number of companies whereby they are not willing to release their e-waste. I don't know what's causing that really, but I'm sure I'll go through the report which has been represented in the morning to see more about that. And from that image there, you can see that a ton of e-waste produces more gold than a ton of a gold ore, which is quite interesting. So our solution, this year we launched the first e-waste recycling plant in Zambia. So most of the e-waste that was collected by companies in Zambia, mostly maybe it was exported. I don't know much about that. But for us, we are turning these challenges into a solution for a greener and more sustainable future. So that's just part of the image of our e-waste recycling plant. So it uses density to separate when you crush. So there's a crusher where you crush the e-waste. Then now after crushing the e-waste, this machine, it has a pump, so it uses water. So it uses the principle of density to separate the material, which is the metal, from the waste. So we are providing a safe and emission-free processing. So as usual, we don't have any emissions since we are only using a crusher and water. So there's nothing like burning anything. So it's emission free. Then our solution, this is good news, has also been licensed as by ZEMA. So for those who are not familiar with ZEMA, ZEMA is Zambia Environmental Management Agency, and they've certified us to, they've given us a license to manage electronic waste in Zambia. So, like I mentioned, we recover valuable materials. So our plant recovers mainly copper. So the metal which is recovered from our plant is mainly copper. 90% of it is copper, which we now sell to the metal processing companies so that they're able to use it in their processing. So like I said, we launched this in January. So from January, we've been able to recycle 1.5 tons of e-waste, which we got from Impala. I'm sure we've heard of Impala Tenements. It's a company in Ndola. So our plant is in Kitwe. So Impala was one of the first companies to give us access to their e-waste. Of course, at a cost, our own transportation. This is different from the waste at home. It's you who has to pay a company. So I'll explain more on that, on the challenges. So from the 1.5 tons of e-waste, we've been able to recover 300 kgs of copper, which we can then sell to the metal processing companies. Then for every ton of e-waste that we recycle, we are cutting 5 tons of carbon emissions. And I'm sure this is true because if you look, for example, at an old TV, there are those TVs we used to use like 10 to 15 years ago. The TVs, my sister calls it a TV with a big stomach. So those, by now, most of them are part of e-waste. And imagine if that lands to a landfill where it's going to be burnt. Now imagine the amount of emission which is going to produce from there. But for us, there is no emission, there's nothing. So we are cutting carbon emissions. So these are some of the challenges faced. So one of them is corporate hesitation due to, like I mentioned, enforcement. So there is nothing like policy on how e-waste should be handled. And so I don't know if it also has to do with the mindset. Like the organizations that we've approached, some of them, they want to hold on to the e-waste. I don't know what they keep it for. Like if something is, I don't know. But let's look at our second point. So we've reached out to companies. So our team, which is mostly based on the copper belt, we've reached out to companies like Mopani, CEC, Zamtel, FQM, and other government ministries. So we are trying to work with both policymakers and these other companies. But the process, of course, like I've said, it's very slow and frustrating. So this is waste, but people still want to hold on to it. So I don't know, maybe they hope someday it will recover or something like that. Yeah, so I think there's need for sensitization on that, and there's need for government to provide a policy direction on that as well. So that was the e-waste that we collected from Impala terminals in Dola. And that was about 1.5 tons of e-waste, which we recycled into metals. So like the presentation in the morning said, e-waste is there, but now it's just that there are no systems. And this is not a problem that we as Yaaka can address alone. We need to collaborate with other entities as well. So we also have limited policies make the situations worse. I've already explained on that. Then, of course, the successes were Zambia's first e-waste recycling plant. And as a startup company, we are really proud of that. And we hope to build on that and continue to develop. So the ZEMA license is another success that we've recorded, and we are very much grateful to ZEMA. The process was smooth. Then we also have recycled 1.5 tons this year, which is a great achievement. And we'll continue having conversations with these companies, Zamtel, FQM, Mopani, and other companies that have electronic waste. So we've also recovered 300 plus kgs of copper. So what's next? So we want to expand our operations. So though we've gone through all these challenges, ZRA, you always have to clear your task. And as a startup, that's, yeah. So we want to expand our operations. So we are not giving up. We'll continue with these conversations because we know that recycling is the future. FQM just mentioned that they have to do more mining of copper. Now imagine if they are doing more mining, then there's also comes recycling of copper. Then that is going to make their efforts a little bit easier, right? Then we can also talk of, we hope to engage both the government and the private sector. So we hope maybe the government will make a policy direction where all e-waste management companies will be mandated to separate the waste, because when it ends up in landfills, I tell you, it can be a serious disaster because e-waste contains harmful substances such as mercury, lead, which can leach into our water systems. And as he said, there are people exposed to these things in landfills. I don't know what they go there to look for exactly, but there are people who go there so they can be exposed to these things. Then these things can also, these substances can also get in our soils and also in our water systems, which can be a huge danger. So we need to support this initiative. So our vision is to attain continental leadership in e-waste recycling. Yeah, of course we've started and we hope to do more. Then just an emphasis that together, this is not something that can be achieved by Yaaka alone. We all need to preach recycling. Thank you so much.
Chilumba posed a very important question. Why are we hoarding electronic waste? Maybe we think they'll become collectibles someday. Who knows? But thank you so much for those insights. I think there's a call for collaboration, for partnership. So please do reach out.